All right, well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and those that are online as well. Hopefully we figured out a little bit more of the technology, and I'm just remembering now that while the colors are being posted, I've got to turn on the speaker so that you're going to be able to hear the anthems. But it's glad for you to join us here at Liberty Cemetery. Before we get started, I'd like to do a quick land acknowledgement. As we begin today's service, I want to acknowledge that we hold this service of remembrance and commemoration on Indigenous land. Following the gold rush of 1849 and California becoming a state in 1850, the United States government began a stated process to establish formal relations with tribal communities. The unstated intent, however, of this process was to extinguish Indigenous title to the land and forcibly move people to areas that were not desired by the whites. Throughout 1851 and 52, 3 commissioners negotiated treaties with tribes up and down the state, creating the alphabet treaties, treaties A through R. Liberty Cemetery here in Petaluma sits on unceded land that was once home to the coastal Miwok, as well as the Grattan Ranchero people. It was included in Succession Tract 297 of Treaty P in 1851, which was designed to cede all claim to the territory and remove these people to the Clear Lake Reserve. However, the U.S. Senate would later fail to ratify any of these treaties because if Mexico had not originally recognized the indigenous titles to these lands, then there was no need for the U.S. to even enter into treaties. As such, the land we stand today is unceded territory. It is important to understand that both the existence of these treaties and their contents were held in secret until 1905, which means that for over 50 years, the indigenous tribes of California had no right to exist. Additionally, while the U.S. government were negotiating these treaties, the newly formed state of California were passing laws to authorize and pay for the extermination of indigenous people or provide for their enslavement. Today, as we remember those who have bravely answered their country's call to service, we should also remember and acknowledge the people indigenous to this land, their culture, their language, and their freedom, all of which was stolen from them. In addition, I want to remind folks that November 8th is actually Indigenous Veterans Day in Canada, and folks are encouraged to wear orange as a symbol of reconciliation, which is born out of the tragedy of the residential school system, or in the U.S., the Indian boarding school system. With that, I would ask that the colors be posted by our United States Naval Sea Cadet Corps, Arkansas Division. Bring it on. Oh. Right, face. Order off. Color now. Post the color. Now ask that you remain standing for their national anthems. We'll begin with O Canada, followed by the Star Spangled Banner, and finally God Save the King. The lyrics are posted on the back of your program. If you're unfamiliar, and since this will probably, actually not probably, this is the first time that we'll actually be doing God Save the King as one of our services. Thank you. For those who wish to be seated, go ahead. I think we're fairly dry. Next, I call us on our chaplain, Comrade Dennis Edmondson, for our opening prayer.
Before we proceed to the consideration of the business which has brought us together, let us pause and think reverently of those of our comrades who by sea, by land, and in the air laid down their lives for their sovereignty and their country. Their sacrifice will ever inspire us to labor on, to the end that those who survived and need our aid may be assured of our assistance, and that the country in which we live and for which they died may ever be worthy of the sacrifice. During the silence, we will remember our fallen comrades, those who passed since we last gathered together.
Next, I'd like to bring greetings from the Prime Minister of Canada. Dear friends, I would like to extend my warmest greetings to all Canadians as we mark Remembrance Day. On November 11th, we don our poppies in commemoration of those brave men and women in uniform who've made the ultimate sacrifice, and observe 2 minutes of silence to pay tribute to a debt we can never repay. Over the past year, our allies and friends have called on the Canadian Armed Forces and demanded our best. Russia's illegal and unjustifiable invasion of the Ukraine has led us to boost our presence in Latvia and increase our numbers along its eastern flank. Canadian Armed Forces personnel have helped fleeing Ukrainian refugees in Poland and helped train Ukrainian forces in the United Kingdom. At home, the Canadian Armed Forces have stepped up in Atlantic Canada to respond to the damage wrought by Hurricane Fiona and to ensure that Atlantic Canadians are safe. Let us join together today to honor every Canadian who has answered the call to serve and to express our heartfelt gratitude and respect for their immense contributions. In doing so, we honor their service, preserve their legacy, and acknowledge our commitment to building a more peaceful world for all, lest we forget. Sincerely, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. Next, I'd ask you to remain standing as we play the last post, which will be followed by 2 minutes of silence, then the lament from our piper, Charlie Martin, followed by the revelry.
I can now do the active remembrance. They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the days condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. I'd like to call upon Comrade Siefken Krieger now for reading of In Flanders Field. This will be followed by In Flanders Field an answer from one of our Sea Cadets.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from flailing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If we break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Rest ye in peace, ye Flanders dead. The fight that ye so bravely led, we've taken up, and we will keep true faith with you who lie asleep. With each a cross to mark his bed, and poppies blowing overhead, where once his own lifeblood ran red. So let your rest be sweet and deep in Flanders field. Fear not that ye have died for naught. The torch ye threw to us we caught. 10 million hands will hold it high, and freedom's light shall never die. We have learned the lesson that ye taught in Flanders field.
Thank you. Next, we've got the placing of the wreath with another one of our United States Naval Sea Cadet Corps Arkansas Division cadets. Well, I want to thank everyone once again for coming. I won't make this a long reflection today because the weather is cooperating for now, and I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last because about 10 minutes before most of you showed up, we were dealing with a little misty rain here, so I don't want to tempt fate on that. As we look at another year passing and another year since we've been up here, first of all, I want to thank our Cadet Corps for all of the work that they do here, the crosses, the flags. As you can see, they're a big part of our service. And really without them, we wouldn't be able to continue to do the work that we do. So I want to thank each and every one of them because they are the reason we're able to continue to do these types of events here. I also want to recognize, actually, it's sort of just by chance because I didn't quite know where Mark was going to put it, but just below me here is our most recently placed stone for Hugh Campion. For those of you that have been coming to these events for a while, you'll remember that Hugh, and for that matter, I think Pearl was here as many times as not, were the ones who used to maintain this cemetery. He would be up here every year pulling out the weeds, and even minutes before the ceremony, he'd have a broom as he was making sure that there wasn't a single leaf that had blown on or rock that had been kicked over onto any of the headstones. In addition to that, he was always the one who would read in Flanders Field for us each and every year. He had done it so many times that he would basically just come up, put his hands behind his back and do it straight from memory, which is something that I know even as a grade school kid, when I was supposed to have memorized it, I was never able to accomplish. And it's great to see Pearl, Pearl today. We've lost a few other folks here. I see Jane Rutledge here, Fred, who was our president, and I guess prior to that, when we were still using the term commander, was commander for many years. And I think between him and Dennis, for a good decade or more, two of them kept the branch running. And without them, again, we would not be here today. So, each time I come up here, those are some of the folks that I remember as I'm looking at it. And even some of the other memories that we have, I noticed one of our cadet leaders here, Cadet Hesse, her very first event was actually in this cemetery when we were putting down the new rock. And it was, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago now. And she was just coming in as a league cadet at the time. And I remember Hugh took her aside because she was only about that tall at the time. And the two of them basically went and cleaned off the headstone while all of the older cadets and those of us, the adults that were around, were basically shoveling all of the rock all over the place. So, fond memories, but sad memories as well as we look at this place. Once again, thank you all for attending. Please stick around afterwards. We're going to do a group picture once we conclude the ceremony. We'd love to have not just the cadets and the Legionnaires here, but all of the members of the audience to join us as part of the picture. And I know the cadets are heading off to an excursion not far from here. Hopefully the weather will cooperate with you guys a little bit, although I imagine when it doesn't, it's probably just as fun for you guys with those types of events. But for the rest of us, we'll be heading to the IHOP just down on Redwood Parkway there. So we'd love to have you come and join us for a lunch at the time. Now, before we close, I'll call upon our chaplain one last time for the benediction. Following that, the colors will be retired.
Today, we remember and pay our respects to those comrades whose death we mourn, but whose spirits still live. May we strive to promote unity in the spirit of comradeship, never forgetting the solemn obligation we have assumed as members of the Royal Canadian Legion, and remembering that. May we ever pray, Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
March. Color guard. Retrieve the color. Right. Thanks. Forward.